Okay, so what is your name, your full name?
Richard Frederick Alder.
And when were you born?
July 29th, 1961, in the apartment I live in.
Oh, say I was born.
I was born in Queens, Ridgewood, in the apartment that I reside in
Today. And what?
I was born at night. I can tell you that much, but I was kind of young. I don't remember. You know, but my family was tight knit at one time. My father wanted the family. You know, family is the nucleus. You know, everything was dinner together, helped you with your homework. Then as I got into my rebellious stage, it like never ended.
What age was that? What age and then you just gonna say the age I got to my rebellious stage was?
My rebellious age started around 14.
14?
Yeah.
And how old are you now?
I'm 63.
Wow. So starting at 14
yeah, I was
was
into
the beginning of your...
Yeah, drugs, selling drugs.
So when did you start doing drugs?
14.
What drug
Started out with pot. Then after a while, pot didn't do it for me anymore. So then I went to cocaine.
When did you go to cocaine? At what age?
By 15.
By 15?
I was doing cocaine. Then I started doing acid. When I hit 15, I started doing it all.
All the drugs?
Everything. Drinking. The whole gamut.
Okay.
Then wound up doing heroin.
What age was that?
When I got out of the service, I went into the service at 17 to save my life. And in the service, I was blown up twice. And I wound up on pain medication.
So, okay, let's put a pin in that. So, at 17, you joined what branch?
The Marine Corps.
You joined the Marine Corps, and you are, was it a war going on?
When I went in, there was no war, but then we wound up going to Grenada because they had held our medical students hostage. So they sent in the Navy SEALs first, and then the Marines. We did a beach landing.
And how old were you when this happened? What year was this? Do you remember?
Wow, that's far. That was in the 80s, 81.
81.
So I was about 20.
20 years old?
Yeah, about 20, 19, going on my 20th.
Yes.
And a lot.
You were a part of the beach landing?
Yeah. I was,
and did you step on a landmine?
No, I was in a Jeep. And the rear was hit with we rolled over a landmine. And it blew us up. I got ejected, hurt my back.
At 20 years old?
At 20 years old. Yeah.
And that was your first near-death experience?
That was the first time that death looked me in the eye and said,
I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, I got your number, you know.
Yeah. So when you had that first near-death experience, were you thinking about God and death?
I was still an atheist. Man.
Really?
I was an atheist up until 3 years ago.
Okay, hold on. So you get blown up. So after that, so at 17, 14, you start doing drugs. 15, you do all the drugs. 17, you sign up for the Marine Corps. At around 20 years of age, you're deployed to the Caribbean.
Right.
Are you a part of a party? Like what?
We were. It was a whole battalion. The whole battalion was sent.
Okay, so you're a part of a battalion.
Expeditionary force, as they call it.
You are a part of an expeditionary force that was a part of this experience in Grenada.
Right. It was to free the medical students that Cubans and the Grenadians
yes.
were holding hostage. So we went in and we took care of business. You know.
So the second explosion, when was that?
That was when we were walking down the road. I'm on one side one of my men were on the other side because I was a staff sergeant.
This is in Grenada?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he stepped on a landmine.
Mm-hmm.
And all I heard was a bang. The concussion knocked me.
Did he die?
Yeah, he lost. His head was taken off. I watched him, his body walk with no head on. It took about 3 steps, and then the body dropped.
So your what is he called?
He was private.
Okay. So another Marine Corps person that you were with, you guys were going somewhere.
Yeah, doing a patrol down the road.
Yeah.
You know, looking for the enemy.
Yeah.
And he happened to step on the landmine.
And he stepped on a landmine and died.
Yeah.
And you were propelled.
Yeah, the concussion sent me flying. I hit into a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I wound up with a severe concussion.
And at that point, what was going through your mind?
I got to try to survive this. That's the only thing that went through. How am I going to survive this?
Mm-hmm.
I got to get out of here because after seeing my friend, who wasn't only one of my men, he was a friend. Mm-hmm. And to see his body going with no head on it really did damage up here.
Affected you?
Yeah, I started killing the enemy. It was a revenge thing. Yeah, it got to the point where I didn't care, man. Any mission to go out and hunt them down, my hand went up.
Yeah. So the Bible says we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. I'm summarizing right now, but against principalities in high places, right? So at that time, you're 20, 21 years old. Who was the enemy to you?
Honestly, at that time in my life, I was my greatest enemy.
But who at the time did you think was the enemy? When you were
I
in
believed
that
in the
mindset,
devil. I did believe in the devil.
You believed in the devil. Were you worshiping the devil?
No.
You just believed in him.
I knew because of all the evil that I've seen, I said, he's got to be the most powerful because everybody's evil. You got thousands of men here trying to kill each other. And we don't even know each other. If it wasn't for this situation, we'd probably be down drinking coffee, talking, being friends. And here we are trying to cut each other's throats. And unfortunately, I went on a mission. It was, I was up in trees. We waited for an ambush. Wait for the enemy to walk by, and then we would drop down, come behind them, grab them, either slice their throat or stab them in the back.
Were you slicing throats and stabbing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I
so you were
have
in
blood
combat.
on my hands. Yeah, I'm a combat veteran.
Okay.
I've got blood on my hands, and it bothers me to this day.
But back then, you felt it was like a way.
It was justified.
It was justified because you, at least in that instance, when you were living in Grenada and involved in this combat between the U.S. and Grenada, that it was like justified because of the lives that were taken.
Yeah, and my country brainwashed me. They brainwash you in the military, especially the Marine Corps. The only thing that matters is the Corps. Your friends, you don't fight for the country. You're fighting for the guy next to you. You know, your life depends on him, his life depends on you.
You're fighting for America.
Yeah.
And whatever they're telling you, the reason is that you're invading this country.
Right.
Okay. So now at this point, you're 21 years of age. You were in 2 explosions. The first explosion on the beach propels you from the vehicle.
Right.
The second explosion propels you into a wall.
Yes.
And you, at this point, would you say that you're consumed with anger and revenge, or what?
Both.
What? Really?
Well, I just wanted to kill the next guy I saw. The anger of losing my friend, it actually consumed me. And I said, I'm not gonna let him die in vain. And if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna take as many of them with me as I can.
How long were you there?
We were there a whole 2 months.
And how many people's lives do you think
Me? I
was
took
taken?
upwards of 30 confirmed kills.
In Grenada?
Yeah, 30 confirmed. And it was the Cubans we were fighting.
Oh, Cubans.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what happened next? What happened next? Because you just shared 2 near-death experiences, so we have 7 more to go.
Yeah, well.
And you're only at 21.
21.
Right.
Yes.
So what do you do next after Grenada?
After Grenada, I come home, and because of everything that happened, I had body pains. I got on a pain medication. The VA cut me off, cold turkey. Didn't wean me down, so I started doing heroin very heavily. I overdosed in my friend's apartment. Next thing I know,
How old were you when you overdosed?
23, 24, 25 years old.
Were you married?
No.
Okay. 23, 24.
And
You
I
overdosed?
overdosed, and I wound up in his shower with cold water running on me, an ice pack by my privates,
Mm-hmm.
and him smacking me to bring me back around. And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
He brought me back around.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still an atheist. There was no way I was believing in God. There was no way.
At that point, so what was going through your mind when you overdosed? Like, is this it? Like, tell me more about what you were thinking during the overdose.
Well, during the overdose, I don't remember anything because my lips were blue. I was basically dead.
Did you know that you were...
I didn't know anything until he brought me out of it, and I said, let me get my other bag. I wanted to do another bag of dope.
So when you wake up from the overdose,
yes,
you asked for more heroin.
Just like a regular junkie would do.
So did you go to the hospital?
No.
So...
He brought me around. I got up, started walking around. He made sure I stayed awake. And yeah, I went. I asked for the other bag, and he looked at me and told me, I'm going to slap you. So he didn't give me the other bag. He wouldn't let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I woke up in the morning...
You went right back to doing heroin?
Went right back to the bag. Man, I had another bag, man. I wasn't going to let that $10 go to waste.
So you... Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it was that bad.
So when so were you, because I know you shared with me prior to this conversation that you had joined a biking gang.
Yeah.
Were you in the bike gang at this time?
Yeah, I was hanging out with the Brooklyn Road Tramps.
Okay. And so how did you get involved with them?
They were a gang. I had a bike, they had bikes. So I was what they call a hang-around.
Mm-hmm.
Then one of the guys got to like me, and he asked me if I wanted to be a prospect, which is like the lowest member of the gang.
Mm-hmm.
You do all the dirt work. You clean motorcycles for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it. I prospected for 1.5 years. They gave me my full patch.
How old were you when you joined this group?
25, 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a full patch holder.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed with them and got into a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It was gang fights. It was a lifestyle I thought I was ready for, but it got to the point where I wasn't. It got vicious.
How long were you in this group, and did this group
3 years.
lead you into other things?
Yeah, it led me into joining the Confederate Knights of the Ku Klux Klan because I was a racist, hardcore racist, man. If you weren't white, you weren't right. And that's the way I lived. If you weren't white, I didn't want to bother with you.
Mm-hmm.
I just as soon put a knife in your chest and walk away and laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not a joke, but at that point in my life, I thought it was.
Where do you think those ideas came from, like those racist thoughts and feelings came from?
from the outside world around me, the people I was hanging out with, they're all...
Were your parents racist, do you think? Or your family?
My mother was
little.
She was more than a little racist. German. From the other side. So, yeah. My father was Native American and German.
Did your mom grow up in Nazi Germany?
No, they got out of there
Mm-hmm.
just before.
Mm-hmm.
But I had relatives, this is funny, but on one side of the fence in the concentration camps,
Mm-hmm.
and relatives walking the fence.
As not
As
Nazi sympathizers.
SS, yeah, as SS men.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from a Jewish part,
Mm-hmm.
was in there,
Mm-hmm.
and the German part was watching them.
Mm.
I come from a family of mutts.
On your mother's side.
Yeah, on my mother's side.
So you have family that was on both sides.
Yeah, of the conflict, I guess
Yes.
you could call it.
Yes.
And my father's brother, my Uncle Frank, was killed in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
He was the reason why I went into the military in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was the first Marine. He was Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So I was...
For World War II?
Yeah, he was in World War II in Germany. He was killed in... I can't even pronounce the name. It's
So do you feel it was kind of like an idolization of your
Yeah,
uncle that
yeah.
led you?
and my Uncle
to-
George, my Uncle Buster, and my Uncle Jim, my Uncle... what was Sonny? He was in the Air Force for 37 years.
So do you feel like you kind of looked at them more as examples,
Yes.
and it was kind of like an idolization that led you to the Marines?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was, because I grew up watching the war movies and hearing war stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they glorified it. They romanticized it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got into it, I realized there's no glory in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no romance in this. This is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the way I was raised.
So let's go back to the KKK. So what was that like?
That was the worst move I ever made. Because at that point, when I got into that, I was dating a girl. She happened to be a Puerto Rican, a Spaniard Italian.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a little on the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not agree with it.
And
Yeah,
is that what contributed to you leaving?
Yeah. I figured, look, you can't accept my wife. You can't accept me.
You end up marrying this person?
Yeah, I wound up marrying her. We had a son together.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just packed up and left.
Mm.
She said she couldn't take it anymore. I guess I was still coming out of the racist phase,
Mhm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I had stopped doing drugs, though.
Mm-hmm. When you got married, you stopped doing drugs?
Yeah, because when she got pregnant, because when I met her, she was a cocaine dealer. When she got pregnant, she stopped. She stopped smoking weed, and I figured if she can do it, I can do it, and I did it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when my son was 5, she had had enough, because I put work first.
Mm-hmm.
I admit I was wrong for that.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in the daytime as a roofer, nighttime private sanitation,
Mm-hmm.
on the weekend as a security guard.
Mm-hmm.
I hardly ever got to see my family.
Mm-hmm.
She got tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
So she just picked my son up and left. I to this day, I still don't know where my son is.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So you did mention also, because I just want to touch on all the experiences that you had that's going to lead to your ultimate experience with Jesus Christ. So you did mention that you had been to jail. Do you want to talk about that? Like, what led you to prison?
Led me to prison.
And how old were you when you went to jail?
26 years old, 27 years old.
So you get out of the... So are you still in the bike gang, KKK?
I'm out. I'm
so
out.
you leave the bike gang.
I leave it, and I had an argument with my oldest sister.
Mm-hmm.
She called the police and told the cops that I had a gun,
Mhm.
which I did not have.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't use one on my own family anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Detectives came. They grabbed me by the throat,
Mm-hmm.
lifted me up, and were going through my pockets.
Mhm.
My father, 5'2", went over to the cop. Hey, who are you? Because they didn't have badges on. The cop hit my father.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that, my mind went blank, and I just started swinging on cops. I put 3 cops in a hospital. Little 5'7" me put a 6' something cop in a hospital, and they gave me some time on Rikers Island. They only gave me 90 days, but it was the worst 90 days of my life, because you're told when to eat, when to sleep. You had to go down for medication at a certain time. You know, you didn't have control over your own life. I kept getting in fights in there because I was in with blacks, Puerto Ricans, and they all had their own clique. They were all in gangs. And there was like 5 white people in a dorm room of 90 people.
So how did you survive those 90 days?
I fought everybody who came my way that looked for trouble. Because if you don't fight, they're going to make you what they call their bitch. And ain't nobody making me their nobody. I'm a man. I'm a veteran. I have pride. And, you know, I laugh at it myself. You can laugh because what you see in the movies that happen in jail, it does happen. They do rape guys. They flood his cell, and they pull his pants down, and they forcibly, they do that. And unfortunately, it's the white guys, because there's we're the few. Do
you think
we're the minority in there?
They view it's probably a combination of like anger towards, you know, white society.
It's anger towards society, period. But being that we were the most vulnerable,
because you were the least represented,
exactly,
in the prison at the time.
Right.
Yeah. So you get out of jail. You get married. You stop doing drugs for a little while, and then your wife leaves, and your child. And what happened? I
tried to kill myself.
So this is the near-death experience number 4.
3.
No, 3 was the overdose. 4. Yeah.
I was standing on a chair with a rope around my neck, and I contribute my life being saved because of a cat. My cat Butchie came out and sat down right in front of me when I was just about to kick the chair out, and he gave me a look, and I knew what he was thinking. It's like I heard him. And I said, all right, I won't do it. Who's going to take care of you? I took the rope off my neck, and I didn't think about it for a long time.
Wow. So in the Bible, you know, God does use animals, and the Lord used a donkey to, I can't remember exactly what happened, but to warn someone. But so God used a cat to
save my life.
To save your life in that moment.
I knew what the cat was, by the look of the cat, the look he gave me, I knew what he was saying. It's like, who's going to take care of me? And me with animals, I'd rather be around animals than people. You know, I lived on a farm for a while, you know, got really close with animals.
When did you live on the farm?
When my parents got tired of me when I was little and shipped me off for a while, because my mother used to tie me in the chair because I was even as a little guy, 5 years old, I was a terror. I was a holy terror, as they called it. She used to tie a rope around my waist and one around hers. And if she called me and I didn't answer, she'd yank the rope. And she would hear me go, ba-boom! She knew I was climbing on something. Yeah, it was that type of...
What age did they send you to the farm? And how long were you there?
I was there from 5 to 9. Yeah, 5 to 9. I lived with my grandparents.
Where was this?
Connecticut.
So from age 5 to age 9, you lived with your grandparents.
In New Haven, Connecticut.
In New Haven, Connecticut, on what type of farm? Were there cows?
There were cows. We had goats, sheep, ducks.
Did they have fruits and vegetables as well?
No, we were just all animals.
So animal farm.
Yeah.
Did you go to school up there?
Yeah, and I loved it. But when I came back down here at about 10, 9, I was ahead of everybody. What they taught up there, I shouldn't have learned down here until I was in 13. So I was ahead. I had great grades. I was a B student.
In school?
Yeah. A B student until I got to high school.
And then you started doing the drugs?
Yeah, man. Then it was like, they used to give you a 44 if you were always absent. I would go to school once a month. Yeah. Catch the mail, get the hooky card, rip them up, throw them away. My parents didn't know anything, and then one day I missed the mail, and I got caught for every day. They sent one big card with every day I missed. And my parents whooped my butt.
Wow.
That's when parents were allowed to discipline their children. And they disciplined. My mother believed in corporal punishment. My father wouldn't touch me because I was his only boy. I was his golden child. I took advantage of that, of course. You know. But
so, you, after the suicide attempt, what happens next?
I remember one night I was out walking around. I was coming on Seneca Avenue down the block, and there's a Italian cafe. They just had their sidewalk done, fresh concrete. The people that were walking in front of me wrote their names in it, stepped in it. They left, and as I was walking by, the cafe owners come out. They thought I did it. They held me down over the hood of a car and beat me with a 2x4.
What?
Yeah, they knocked out 4 teeth. Yeah, right down the Seneca and Green.
So you... Okay.
I took a beating for something I didn't even do. Then they shot at me from the apartment because I went back after them the day after with a bunch of my friends. They went up on the roof.
You tried to get revenge.
Yeah,
you retaliated.
Yeah, that was my MO. You know, you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you. They started shooting at me, and I'm the one that almost got arrested. Yeah.
Someone called the police?
The bullets went through the window of an apartment and almost hit a kid in the crib. But the funny thing was, when they were shooting from their roof, the bullets hit on an up angle. So it's actually like the bullets came down, and when because I felt them whizzing past, but they went up. It's like something was around, like a shield or something. Was around you. Yeah, and they should have hit me. But I felt them whiz by, and they missed me by that much. So you had that was your 5th near-death experience. Yeah, that's the one that really got me to think. You know, saying, "Wow, you know, this is crazy. You know, you can't live like this." But I did it anyway. I kept with the wise guy attitude. You know, doing the things that I shouldn't be doing. And I remember one time hanging out right on the corner. My friend had my money, so I reached out of the car and said, "Can I have my money, please?" And as I reached out, my friend nailed the gas pedal. So my body swung out of the car. I hit the side of my face on the side view mirror of a parked car. From here to here, I was split open. You could see my skull. Whoa! I wound up in Wyckoff Heights Hospital with a paper over my face that was sewing me up. How old were you when this happened? 28, 29. So this is your 6th near-death experience? Yes, that's the 6th. So you were trying to get money that was owed to you? Yeah, he was holding my money, you know, playing that game. And so I reached out, and my friend didn't know what we were doing. And he hit the gas pedal. My body swung out, hit the side view mirror of a parked car, split my face open. And before they realized what happened, I was dragging out the car. My knuckles just scraping on the street, yeah. My friend Ward picked me up and carried me into the emergency room. I woke up with a paper over my face, you know, they just to keep it clean. And I pulled it down. I seen a Japanese doctor. And I flipped out. I said, get this kamikaze pilot away from me. I don't want no slant eye.
Did you have PTSD?
Yeah.
Did you know it at the time that you had
we
PTSD?
We didn't. They really didn't understand it at that time. You know, PTSD has only been the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm. So you see the doctor, your face is open.
They sewed me up, stitched me up from here to my lip.
Mm.
You could go like that
Mm-hmm.
and see everything.
Mm.
Then I was getting high again.
What were you doing? What drugs were you doing?
Back to everything. Drinking, a lot of drinking. And I was hanging out at laundry on my fire escape for my mom. Mm-hmm. And we live on the 3rd floor, so you know you have that cutout where you can go down to the 2nd floor. Mm-hmm. I lost all spatial awareness and I fell through that space. I landed, hit my face off the metal step. Right here I have the scar. Mm-hmm. Stitched up, I broke my eye orbital, my nose, and my cheek. That's why if you look at my nose, it goes to one side. I was in the hospital for over a week.
Were you conscious?
In and out, because I had another massive concussion. The lady next door said all she heard was the blood. It sounded like a water faucet. When the ambulance came, they were slipping all over the kitchen floor. There was so much blood. I almost bled out on the kitchen floor.
Wow. And,
yeah.
And when was this?
29.
So that was your 7th near-death experience.
Yeah.
By 29, you had seven near-death experiences.
Already, yeah.
So what were you thinking? Like,
why me?
Oh, okay.
It was why me. I didn't put the blame where it should have been. It was on me.
But you were thinking, like, why do these things keep happening to me?
Why? What did I do to deserve this? But I never really examined
your own actions.
My own actions. Mm-hmm. I didn't take responsibility for my own actions. Mm-hmm. And if I would have did that, there wouldn't have been so many accidents.
So you feel, so basically, because the Bible, it talks about repentance. So you still were in a place where, because accountability is a form of repentance, like acknowledging, the Bible says, examine yourself, right? To see that you're in the faith. And you still weren't at the place of examining yourself yet.
No, I didn't want no part of it. I didn't want no part of religion, because I would go with my friend. He was Catholic. I would go to the church down here just to keep him company. And I started to pass him a collection plate around 4 times in an hour service, saying, this is only a money-making scheme.
That's what you thought religion was?
Yeah, that's all I thought it was. I said, every church wants money. And then they had a silent collection in the Catholic Church. Me being the ignorant that I was, I thought you didn't talk during a silent collection. When he explained to me, it was they didn't want to hear change hitting the thing. It had to be paper money only. When I heard that, I said, this religion, it's bull.
It turned you off.
Yeah, it scared me away. Because I was poor. I was lucky I could feed myself. And the church wants me to give, like, what was it, 40% of my salary to them? For doing what? For going like that.
What age were you going to the church with your friend? Around what age?
I started going around 30, 31, because he was the best man at my wedding. He was trying to save me, you know.
He would talk to you about God?
Yeah, and I would, like, you know, tune him out, saying, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, I know. The invisible God, yeah, I know. The guy you can't see, you can't touch, he's going to save me. Yeah, okay.
So people were evangelizing to you during these times.
Yeah.
Did anyone else try to evangelize to you?
Well,
besides him?
the bishop of the church.
No, before. I mean, when you were in that age.
Oh, in that era? Yeah, a lot of people. At one point, my brother-in-law, Rob, God rest his soul, he was an ordained minister.
He tried to talk to you.
He tried to talk to me, and I flat out told him, don't hang me on your religious bull.
So
take your religion.
The best
shove
man of your wedding evangelized to you.
Yeah.
Your brother-in-law evangelized to you. Who else?
And we used to have the Jehovah's Witnesses come around.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I had a Doberman. So when they would knock on the door at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, they would try to talk to me. I would call my dog. I'd go, Satan, come here. And they'd bring the dog out, and they would run.
The dog's name was Satan?
No, it was Trouble, but I would call it Satan just to...
You had a dog named Trouble, and you nicknamed him Satan.
Yeah, because he scared them away real good. Anybody who tried to preach to me, I called the dog Satan. They said, what was the dog's name? I said, Satan. Yeah.
So you didn't want anything to do with
nothing.
God?
I mean, to me, it was bull.
Mm-hmm.
It was just people need something to believe in. People needed structure in their life, and the Bible gave them that structure. Because people on their own, basically evil.
Mm-hmm. So after the 7th near-death experience, you get out the hospital. What happens now? You're 30 years old. What happens now?
We were in a van, customized van, going down Snake Hill, what do they call it? Cypress Hill Street, where the S turns off. I'm in the front seat, my friend's driving, we got like 5 other guys in the back. The front tire blows as we're making the turn. The van, being top heavy, rolled 5 times. Yeah. The top of the van crushed down. Everybody crawled out. Me, they had a get out. I wound up dislocating my shoulder.
So they had to pry you out of the van?
Yeah, they had to pry me out of the van. And again...
Where was this?
Right on Cypress Hill Street.
And how old were you?
33.
Wow.
33, 34 years old.
So that was your 8th near-death experience?
Yeah. Then I was good for a long time.
What's a long time?
Until I was 60 years old.
60?
60 years old. Everything, because I started staying away from everybody. I kept to myself. I had roommates, which unfortunately I found 2 of them dead. They died in the apartment. They were sick. And I, being the person that I wanted to be and tried to be, they were homeless, so I took them off the street, didn't charge them rent, nothing. Yeah. My one friend lived with me for over 20 years. So
you tried to change your life in your 30s?
Yeah, I tried.
On your own?
On my own.
You tried to change with no God, no nothing. You just decided, I'm going to stop.
Yeah, because it wasn't getting me anywhere. It was getting me closer to the grave the way I was living. My best man is the one that actually brought that to my attention. I was being accused of robbing the apartments in the neighborhood. I wasn't doing it, but I was catching the flack for it because of my attitude. I had a few attitudes. You know me by now, so you can... And everything came at me. So I said, I'm going to prove these people wrong about me.
I'm going to turn my life around.
Right. And my friend was homeless. His sister threw him out because he was an alcoholic. I don't allow drinking or anything in my house, but I said, I can't have my friend living on the street. So I brought him in. Then I see another one of my friends, Joey, homeless. I go, what's up, man? He used to have an apartment. He had a stroke. When he was in the hospital, the landlord evicted him. He was sleeping on the train. So I couldn't let that happen. So I had 4 rooms. So I gave them each a room. I didn't charge them rent, nothing. They just had to feed themselves. Come out one morning, my friend Tommy, my best friend, I knew him 50 years. He was dead. He was on his oxygen machine. He was dead. He was cold. doing CPR, nothing happened. Then my
You
other,
performed CPR?
yeah,
On the room, on your friend Tommy?
yeah, on both of them. Because I called 911. They told me to do CPR, so I did it. They were gone. They were ice cold by the time I got to them. Then my other friend, he had fallen by the deli. Hit his head on the sidewalk. So I know you got to keep him awake 12 hours. I kept him awake over 18 hours. I said, look, Joey, I'm going to sleep. I come back out the next morning, and he's laying on the bed. The TV's doing that. And he was ice cold. He died of a brain hemorrhage. He wouldn't go to the hospital. I begged him. I pleaded with him. He wouldn't go. Called the ambulance. He refused to go.
Wow.
He wound up dying. So 2 of my best friends died in my apartment, in the living room, and in the 1 bedroom. And I said to myself, something's not right. You know, this is why. Why I'm trying to do the right thing, and it's like I'm being fought, like somebody was fighting against me. And then that led to me meeting the pastor before the bishop, Victor. And this is going back, wow, when I was 55. And he started ministering to me every time he saw me in the street. And I was still at that point, you know, I take religion and I'd be polite and listen, you know, and try not to. And then he left, and then the bishop came in. He was ministering to me for over 7 years on the street.
So you were in your 50s at this point?
Yeah. And I'm still, I'm an atheist. My boss was an atheist, so we had something in common. And the friendship grew from there, if you can call it a friendship. And then one day, you know, I was working. I was cutting a tree branch. The ladder slipped out. I fell from about 25 feet up.
That's death experience number 9.
Right.
That's what happened.
And I landed across a wooden fence on my back. They take me to the hospital. They had to stitch me up in a couple places.
This is in your 50s?
Yeah, I had 50 stitches in my head right here in like a horseshoe shape. And everything was fine, you know, doing good. When I turned 60, I went and got the shot for the COVID. Had a hard time breathing. Couldn't catch my breath. Couldn't walk 10 feet without doing this. Pains in my side. I thought I pulled a muscle. Turns out I come out the house going to the store and I coughed. And blood came out. The girl that lived in the building next to me, she worked for a pharmaceutical company. She saw it. She said, Richard, that's not supposed to happen. Go to the hospital. I go to Wyckoff Heights. They say, your lungs are full of blood. We have to take the blood clots out manually. They had to go through my groin and, you know, through. When they hit my heart stopped. 9 minutes.
You were dead.
I was dead. No pulse. No nothing. But the funny thing was, before I went into surgery, the doctor told me, look, you might not make it because your lungs are in bad shape. And I'm still an atheist at this point.
Wow.
I looked up in the sky, you know, at the ceiling. I said, Lord, I know I haven't been good. You know, I'm one of those. But if you save me, don't let me die. I will change my life. I'll go to the Message Church. Well, I get in there. I died.
For 9 minutes.
For 9 minutes. No pulse. No, not even brain activity. I was
dead.
They were wrapping me for the morgue. They already had the plastic going around my body. Next thing I know, after they called it TOD, the time of death, I had it down. I wound up sitting up. And I asked the nurse, I said, what happened? What's going on? The nurse looked at me and started screaming. She's yelling for the doctor. Doctor comes running in. What's the matter? She goes, how did you? I said, how did I what? He goes, you were dead.
Did they have a tag on your toe?
Yeah, I had a toe tag on. I was ready for the morgue. I found out the nurse quit. Which actually makes me laugh because I'm trying to put myself in her place. I would have quit too. You know, it's funny, but I made a deal with the Lord, man. You know, and he came through for me. A person that didn't want to know nothing about him, didn't believe it, didn't believe Jesus was real. Thought the Moses thing was all a crock. You know, it's a movie, you know.
Did you have any experience when you died, or you just died?
Yeah, see, that's what. See, I tell people that and they say, "Nah, it's a lie. You're lying." But when I remember looking down on my body and seeing the doctors running around trying to revive me, and there was like this. I don't know how to put it, like this pure white light, this whiteness. And there was this overwhelming feeling of being loved, something which I don't have, because my family disowned me. And I remember feeling like a pressure pushing me toward my body, but me resisting, not wanting to go back into my body. But I lost. The pressure got to the point where, and next thing I know, I'm sitting up on the stretcher.
So the Lord
pushed me back into my body.
He brought you back to life.
Yeah, he brought me back. It's the only possible thing, because doctors had given up on me. They did everything they could.
They had literally put a tag
they
on
did the electric thing. I watched it. I'm watching all of this, and I was saying, well, I must be dead.
You had an outer body experience.
Yeah, and people say, you're full of it. Hey, who is there?
Ask the nurse.
Yeah, really.
Who quit her job.
Ask the nurse that quit her job after 20-something years. But, that day I got out on a Monday. On Monday they had gatekeepers at the church. I came from the hospital right into the church and accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior right there. And I've been in the church ever since. That's 3 years now.
Wow, praise the Lord.
I go to church on Wednesdays when they have their prayers. If I have to work, I can't make it. I go to the Bible study when I can get out of work in time. But I try to make it every Sunday. My health is not that good because the blood clots really screwed up my lungs bad.
And also the methadone.
The methadone messed up the...
How long have you been on that?
I've been on methadone for, since 90.
1990?
Yeah.
So 35 years?
I was on 215 milligrams. The doctor told me you can't do that anymore, that much. So I'm weaning myself down. I'm down to 120 milligrams inside of a year and a half. I feel it. You know, on some days I'm very uncomfortable because it's like being dope sick all over again, you know. But to me, it's worth it. They said, if you can't get off the methadone, at least bring it down to 100 milligrams. This way, the electrical signal from the brain to the heart won't be interfered. Because you gotta remember, I was on all kinds of psych medications. And the methadone, the mixture, messed up my heart, the electrical impulses. It totally messed everything up.
So, you had a near-death experience recently. This will be your 10th one.
I was on a patch on a roof, and I was climbing down. The ladders are straight up and down ladders, the metal ladders. I got about 2 steps off the top, step down. I was having a hard time breathing. I wound up passing out on the ladder, and I fell a good 8 feet. I landed with my back up against the door and slapped my head off the door buck. If I would have fell 6 inches to the right, I would have been impaled by a metal rod. If I would have went 6 inches to the left, I would have fell down to the first floor from the third, straight down. But I fell straight back with a can of tar in my hand. The can went flying. Luckily, I didn't land on it. I would have broke my back. And I saw where the other day I was at that job. I saw it. I hit the door so hard. It's a metal door, the fireproof. The door is bent. I'm still having problems with my neck. It hurts.
But you could have died.
Yeah.
You fell off of a roof.
Yeah.
How many stories?
It was only about 10 feet.
10 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the weight of your body,
And
the force.
and the weight of the can of tar, which weighs 70 pounds. I came down like a bullet, and I hit the ground. My landlord was in the basement working, and he heard it. So I must have hit hard.
And this was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly a month ago.
It was a month ago, and you're giving a testimony today.
I'm here again. The
Yes.
Lord intervened again. Like I say, my guardian angel should be getting overtime pay. You know, because I keep saying, how many times does one person deserve to be saved? You know, how when does that run out? Does it run out? Because, come on. You got to look at it and say, he's either the luckiest or the most unlucky. I consider myself blessed. And I had it all. It has to be God, because who else? My body isn't. I'm strong, but I ain't that strong. I ain't put together that good.
And God wanted you to know, you know, when you went in to have your surgery, at that point, like, you know, He loves you.
Yeah.
He loves you, because at that point, it's drugs, death, blown up, shot, stabbed. You forgot to mention when you got stabbed in the chest.
Oh yeah, my sister stabbed me in the chest with a
glass
piece of a broken window.
Right.
Right here.
Yes.
I got the scar.
You've
here.
had 11 in counting, because now
I lost count.
Yeah, you've had at least 11 near-death experiences, like real experiences where you should not be alive. And when you cried out to Him before your surgery, He heard you.
Yeah. I even forgot to mention, I went up to visit my uncle in Connecticut when I was in my 40s. I was being a knucklehead. I went to a topless bar. In the topless bar, I met a dude. He had some weed and coke. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to go and buy some. He takes me up into his apartment. Like an idiot, I go, right? Not thinking nothing.
Like a Jeffrey Dahmer situation?
And the guy...
What?
The guy starts locking his doors. Comes out of his room and puts a 9mm in my head and says, "Give me your money."
Oh my gosh.
I looked at him, I said, "Yeah, right." Smacked the gun out of his hand. His window was open. Now, he's on the third floor now. His window was open about that much. I ran, dove through the window. He caught me by my foot. I'm hanging out the window upside down. So I kicked my sneaker off so he would let go. I fell. I hit the porch.
Oh my God.
Rolled off, landed on the ground, wound up walking around like this for 18 months. I broke both of my wrists.
Oh my God.
Had to have this one put back together. I broke every bone in there.
Oh my goodness.
I even broke the scaphoid bone, which is the only bone in your body that has a vein going through it that keeps it alive. I've got 4 pins holding this thing together.
Wow.
That's as much as I can bend my wrist.
And you know, let's show you a scar. The scar looks like the cross.
Yeah.
It looks like the cross.
So, yeah,
Wow.
I'm looking
So
at
that's
that,
12
12.
near-death experiences.
I gave up really counting after like 7th and 8th. Because it's like, to me, it's starting to get ridiculous. You know?
Starting to?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous from day one. Getting blown up twice.
Oh, man.
There's no reason that you should be alive, but I believe God has kept you alive so that you could testify about his mercy, his grace, and his love, because he did allow you to experience that overwhelming blanket of love, the comfort.
Yes.
And the scripture says that the Holy Spirit is our comforter, you know, so that the mercy that he's shown you by continuing to cover you and protect you, the grace, because this is God's grace.
Yeah.
Your life is a testimony of the grace of God, you know, like this is what it means, because it's not that we want to abuse God's grace, but he's extended his grace to you so that you could tell people.
He's extended his grace to me more than any person deserved. Especially the person that I was. Because now my friends that know me from back then, I meet them, and the first thing they say, what's different about you? You don't talk like you used to. You're not a knucklehead. You know, your language. I was a professional cursor. Every other word was F this or you son of a, you know. Now, before I speak, I think, I try not to offend people. I didn't care if I offended anybody. I was, honestly, I was scum of the earth. That's the way I looked at myself. And my sisters reinforced that in me. They always put me down, told me I was no good. You know, they disowned me. The only family I have is my church family, you guys, and the Lord. That's all I need. I'm the richest man on the block. I might not have a lot, but I got more than a lot of people.
So, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons you learned since coming to Christ?
The biggest lesson I learned is that God is real. Jesus is real. And they do love you. You know, the Holy Spirit and everything does come inside you and live through you. I guess that's the way to put it. And changes you. Because I went from a real piece of work to somebody I'm proud of now. That I don't walk with my head down over at night. I walk down the middle of the sidewalk with my head up. I don't owe anybody anything. The only person I owe anything to is God. And I do that willingly. You know, whatever he wants me to do, I'll do it. You know, it's as simple as that. Whatever God, Jesus commands, I'll do it. No questions asked, because I know you're not going to send me down the wrong path. And me, I was on the wrong pathway.
You lived there.
I lived there, right. I was homeless. I lived out of my car. After my wife left me, I lived out of my car for a year and a half. I had the only car in Ridgewood that had roaches.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, you know, God brought me from somebody I didn't like. And I think that's what the whole thing was. I didn't like myself. That's why I went the way I did. It was like, how do they say, self-abuse. And, you know, I didn't mention that when I was 10, I was sexually molested. I usually don't
lead with that
because, you know, but I was molested when I was 10 years old.
After you came back home?
Yeah, by a guy around the block who was a family friend.
A man molested you?
Yeah, he was a family friend. At least I thought. And I blamed myself. And I couldn't tell my dad. If I would have told my father, I wouldn't have had a father, and my father would have went and killed him. That's how my father was for me. He would have killed the guy, and then he would have went to jail, and I wouldn't have had no daddy.
Do you think that that's what led you to do drugs
Yeah.
at such a young age?
Yeah, that's because it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I kept blaming myself, thinking I did it. I went to the Marine Corps because I thought, am I gay?
Mm.
I didn't know if I was gay or not, so I had to prove to myself that I wasn't,
That you were a man.
that I'm still a man.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out I am a man, you know, but a little damaged, but I'm a man, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to smile and laugh and make jokes out of it, because sometimes I think about it, it still hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a family friend, trusted.
Mm-hmm.
But I got even.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into him when I was in my biker phase and all of that. You know,
KKK Richie ran into
Yeah,
a child
I had
molester. Oh my
I beat the
God.
living daylights out of him right on his own stoop. I had him, I kicked him in his face with my steel-toed boots on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really did a number on him. And I actually felt guilty for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized what he did to me. He stole my childhood.
Mm.
He stole my self-respect.
Mm.
And if I would have told my father would have been stolen from me.
Do you feel that God has healed you? Or are you seeking?
Yeah. I can actually talk about it now and not get embarrassed,
Mm-hmm.
angry.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't my fault.
Mm-hmm.
How many people have been molested
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't their fault?
Mhm.
What could a 10-year-old have done
Mm-hmm.
to deserve it
Mm-hmm.
to a grown man?
Mm-hmm.
He was sick.
Mm-hmm.
He had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I was the target.
Mm-hmm. One of them, because
One of them, who knows how many more he...
Right.
So I lived with that. I couldn't tell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived with that as a secret. And it was killing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what forced me to go the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
Because I figured, if there's a God,
Mm-hmm.
why did he let me get molested?
Mm.
Why didn't he stop it? Why didn't he, you know, have somebody pull up and say, hey, you stop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I blame God for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Even when my cats died
Mm-hmm.
many years ago, I blamed God. I said, yeah, you're God, yeah. I prayed to you. I asked you to save my cat. You didn't do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't help me. I prayed for you to save my father. You did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, you did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the Almighty?
Mm-hmm.
Almighty what?
Mm-hmm.
Faker?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the attitude I had.
Mm-hmm.
And it got worse over the years. You know, seeing my friends die and praying and saying, God, you know. But when I asked him to let me live, I said, Lord, if you really do exist, don't let me die. Please, I don't want to die. I'm young yet. I got life to live. If you let me live, I'll go to the Message Church.
Mm-hmm.
I got out on a Monday. That Monday night, from the hospital to the church, accepted Jesus. Been there ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've met some great people.
Mm-hmm.
Good people.
Mm-hmm.
That won't steer me, down the wrong way. Won't
Encourage certain behavior.
Right.
Lastly, is there anyone you want to apologize to or seek forgiveness?
Yeah, and I can't because unfortunately she passed away.
So you
My
feel
ex-wife.
you wanna
You
want her to know.
I wanted her. When she wound up with woman cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and she was in a hospice,
Mm-hmm.
and when I heard that, I wanted to go and say, you know, Heidi, I apologize for everything I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was going to tell her I wasn't the only one that was wrong in a relationship, but I apologize for what I did.
What about your family besides your wife, like your siblings?
Oh, I had stolen from my mom and dad, but I made amends to them.
Mm-hmm.
When they saw me getting help for the drug abuse,
Mm-hmm.
man, they were ecstatic, man. They were so happy. My sisters,
You want to apologize to them. Yes, you do.
I tried to apologize, and I've called them up. I've reached out, and I said, look, we're not getting any younger. You know, I said, me, you know, died,
What do
came
you
back.
want them to know about you now?
That I'm not the knucklehead that I was. But they won't even give me a chance. I've called them on every holiday, every birthday, and they hang up. When I told my sister Darlene that, yeah, you know, I died on the table, and I came back, now I'm in church. She said, yeah, for how long?
That's okay. What do you want your son to know?
That I love him, and I just want him to let me talk to him and explain what happened, you know.
And see the new person?
And see that I'm not the I never was the person his mother made me out to be in the first place. She had me pegged as John Gotti Jr.
I mean...
Really, she had me killing people. I mean, and my sisters backed up that negative. Put it this way, get divorced, usually the family doesn't talk to the ex-wife. My sisters, her new daughter's godmother, they went out on vacations together, but they wouldn't even talk to me, my sisters.
But you want your family to know that
I'm not the same person. I'm
and
different.
that you're sorry.
And I am sorry for everything that I've ever done wrong. But my sisters, they were complicit too. When I first met my wife, I went over by my sister Leanne's house. Her husband was in one room. I'm in the kitchen with the girl I'm gonna marry, my sister, and this guy Bob, and they're fooling around in front of the girl I'm gonna marry while her husband's in the next room.
Okay.
So that embarrassed me like you wouldn't believe. So I said, you know what, I don't play this. The next day, I went to my brother-in-law and I said, Jack, I gotta talk to you. Leanne and Bob are making a fool out of you. She's cheating on you with him. They did it in front of me and Heidi in the kitchen last night. And I ratted my own sister out because my parents were okay with it.
Okay.
Family goes so far with me.
There's a lot of...
When you start... Marriage is a sacred thing to me. I took marriage seriously. And I've had girls cheat on me. Don't make a fool out of the person. If you don't want to be with them anymore, tell him, look, it's not working out. Don't make a jerk out, especially in his own house when he's buying you brand new cars. And they owned a house in Glendale, 9-room house. 2 motorcycles. They each had a car. She had rocks on her finger that could choke an elephant. And she's cheating on him with this lowlife.
Okay, so you just want them to know that you've changed and now you love them and now you're sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm very sorry. You know,
Is there anything else you would like to say just about where you are now and, like, you know, just in general about your relationship with Christ?
I still call myself a Christian in training because I realized every time, like when I go to Bible study, I learn something new. And I like it because it actually catches me off guard. And I like that, being kept on my toes. And my relationship with the Lord now is I pray every night. And a lot of times when I pray, I wind up breaking down in tears. I don't know why that is, but I start crying. You know, I've been asking the Lord, please let me come into big money. People think that's wrong. But the reason why I want the big money is because in this world, the only way you can really help people is if you have the money to get them an apartment, to put food on their table. I want to help animal shelters because I told you, me with animals. I see the thing with the old Jewish ladies in Russia that have nothing. I want to help them. When I see people, I want to help children.
You have compassion.
Yeah, and that's something I never had.
So God made you more compassionate.
Yeah, I didn't care about anybody but myself, to be straight up. You know, it was all about me. As dumb as I was, it was all about me.
And now...
Now it's all about everybody else. I put myself on the back burner. I don't matter. Everybody else does.
Do you have any words you would like to say? Because we're wrapping up.
Yeah, man, you know, God is real. Jesus saves, and it's not just a saying. It is the truth, and it's the easiest thing to do. All you have to do is open your heart and accept Jesus, and slowly your life is going to change for the better. You're going to feel better. Because me, I feel great. You know, I might not be the healthiest, but there's reasons for that. You know, but God is great. And I wholeheartedly believe that now. It's not a scam, religion. And make sure you go to the right church. Because there are churches that are preaching some outrageous stuff that's not coming from the Bible. I don't know what book it's coming from, but it ain't the Bible. You know.
And you're a Christian in training saying this.
Yeah, right. A Christian in training who really doesn't know too much about the Bible.
But knows.
But I know enough when I'm being fooled. Right. I know enough when somebody's trying to milk my bank account. You know, and if you go to a church and they start passing the collection plate around 4 and 5 times, like they say, vote with your feet. Get up and walk out because something's not right.
Well, it was nice. I'm glad you shared your testimony, and I pray that people's minds and hearts are transformed by, you know, seeing your example of God using you as a testimony of his grace, mercy, and love.
I hope so too, because like I say, people, life is short. Take my word for it. Life is short, man, and God is real. I'm living proof. And I love my Lord. And you could say I'm a fool for the Lord because I'm crazy about him. Look what he's done for me. And all I had to do was say, yes, Jesus, I accept you as my Lord and Savior. It don't cost anything. It's the easiest thing to do. You just got to really want it and not be a fool. And to me, anybody who's like my boss, the atheist, he's got money, he's got cars, but I got one thing he don't. I got the Lord on my side. I got salvation. He doesn't. I know where I'm going. Does he know where he's going? Because where he's going, there's no such thing as ice water. You know, it's going to be hot. And you're going to be with a pitchfork for eternity. You know, I'm making a joke out of it, but it's not a joke. Just the Lord, it's free. And it's the best free you can ever want. And that's what I've been through, you know, and the Lord is great, man.
Amen. All right.
All right.